Welcome to Tech Talk 2020 with Sanjay Parker, the show where we get smarter together. I'm Sanjay Parker, and I'm here with my co-host, Mike Carswell. We're going to talk about all things technology related to your home, your life, and your business. Today, we are going to be talking about IBM's Watson.
Ooh. Hey, everybody, this is Mike Carswell joining my buddy Sanjay Parker here on Tech Talk 2020. We are the hottest show on the air right now.
You are absolutely right.
Because it's burned up in the studio. But that's fine. We're so glad that you tuned in here to 1330 AM WINT Integrity Radio or 101.5 FM, which is also called Integrity Radio, or listening to us online at WINTradio.com. You can tweet at us during the show, which we really like, at our handle, which is Tech Talk 2020. Or hit us up on Facebook, which is also Tech Talk 2020. I got a pattern going on here, man.
I like it. Say
Tech
it
Talk 2020.
pretty nicely.
Yeah, baby.
So,
Yes, sir.
Mike, we always start off with a little bit of banter and a little bit of wordplay, and it's always
Banter?
fun. So when you, when I talk about Watson,
Yes, sir.
if you didn't know you were on this show and we said, Watson, what would you think about?
Watson, I think elementary, my dear Watson, which goes back to all of our Sherlock Holmes references. Not a big Sherlock Holmes fan as a kid, you know. I know some guys like murder mysteries. I like the Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. That wasn't my cup of tea. So Sherlock Holmes, I'm all right. So educate me here on the guys from Scotland Yard.
Yeah, that's very cool. So actually, in the context of our show today, Watson is a cognitive computing platform. And what it really, we've talked about machine learning and artificial intelligence and bots and assistants in the past. And really, this is the ultimate artificial intelligence and assistant.
Okay, we're going to have to rewind the tape here just a teeny bit. You said it was a cognitive computing platform. Now, that sounds like the Hurricane Hippo howl I did there but the cognitive computing platform, you got to explain that to everybody out there before we go running on, pal. Come on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's
So
okay.
back in the day of the abacus, well, let's forward a little bit.
The abacus.
Let's just say the first calculator. It had, a single purpose to do computational math that was easy, things you can look up in a table, but it does it a lot quicker. Then we had computers that would do a little bit of crunching, maybe like in a spreadsheet. They could go ahead and do a little bit of a formulaic approach where you can, say, take this cell and multiply it by that. So that was a little bit more advanced. Then we got into computers that did the connecting, they connected people all across the internet, doing all that stuff. Now we're in the phase where computers can really start to resemble thinking, and that's the cognitive part.
Does that mean that they won't need us very much longer?
That day will probably come to some degree, but that's okay because as long as we're able to harness their power and control them to some degree.
Yeah, as long as we can
should be
unplug
okay.
them, right?
Yeah.
Check the batteries out. I think we're doing good.
Right.
So Watson has batteries in them? Is that where we're headed here?
Well, so right, Watson is hardware and software.
Okay.
Right, so it's
so it's not a thing. It's a cognitive computing platform.
Absolutely. So that means it can be used for tons of things, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about how it originated and all the stuff that came out around it. But really, it's around being able to. Well, let's talk about something that's core to Watson and all of these other artificial intelligence.
So everybody out there, real
platforms.
quick, do a Google search on Watson. You'll get a picture, or you'll get something that'll show you what's going on with Watson.
Yeah, you'll get a guy. But, picture this. It's something that really is going to do a lot of thinking for us, and it can do it a lot faster. And it's, there's something called unstructured learning, which means now, today, we can take huge, huge data sets of all kinds of data and whatever we track. For example, we talked about autonomous driving vehicles that take 1 million data points per second from all of its sensors. And, a human can look at that and going into it and say, oh, yeah, I can make this correlation, and then you can do some testing of that hypothesis and go ahead and tune it. Well, we don't have to tell the computers anything today. So with unstructured learning, it will find patterns within the data set, and it will do them at a far faster rate than any multitude of humans could ever do. And it will come up with correlations and ideas of how this data can be interpreted. And then the humans can review them and see what they want to do with it.
So let's rewind the tape again to unstructured learning. My board op's agreeing with me in here. Unstructured learning. See, that reminds me of the classroom, when I when I had art class and Mrs. Weatherby was just not a good teacher and the kids would run around everywhere. And they say, draw something for your parents to put on the refrigerator, and then we just painted whatever we wanted. That, to me, is what unstructured learning is.
And that's a good analogy, right? So you're not...
I didn't have a Weatherby as a teacher.
So...
That's because I read too many Archie comic books. Let me get another. Oh, Mrs. Curtis, are you out there one day? Oh, no, Mrs. Curtis. Anyway, Mrs. Curtis, I don't know, Mrs. Walker, Mrs. Talmadge. They were there in my life early on. But unstructured learning to me means chaos.
Yeah, but it also means you're going to solve problems that today we think are unsolvable. And they could be complicated and complex, or they could be very basic and beginner style. So unstructured learning just means that you don't have a set path. Like, here's how I'm going to teach you algebra, right?
Yep.
I know how to do it. Here's how I'm going to teach you how to play this video game. I'll do behavioral modeling, and you can watch me, and I can say, hey, here, you got to jump here.
I'm going to teach you how to hit a baseball.
Yes, good luck with that.
Actually, I have a really good situation here. I have a 15-year-old girl that I know, and she wants to play basketball. She's never played. So today I was thinking about what can I teach her first.
Yep.
So how's that unstructured? Because I'm thinking very structurally.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that's
I'm thinking
structured.
very structurally.
No, because you have a path, you have a destination.
Yes, okay.
You want her to play basketball.
Yeah, okay.
Unstructured is there's really no wrong or right, right? She might take that basketball and hit it with a baseball bat in the garage. That would be okay. In your structured learning, that would be a failed outcome.
Absolutely.
Right. So we don't know the end game here. So we're saying just do whatever. It's fine. You can draw whatever you want. It's cool. You can use this type of crayon. You can use pastels, watercolors, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
This is all about you learning how to do something, right? And we know that humans, if we go back to humans for a minute, we are a very unique animal. We are one of the few animals that are born with very little wiring, right, about the world, right? We learn everything as we go through it. We go ahead and, that 7-year-old who's breaking a glass on the counter table, well, he's learning about the world, and, parents obviously wouldn't like that. And we spend the next, 10 to 15 years, telling them not to be curious about the world. And, all these sayings like curiosity killed the cat and all these, So, yeah, so it's really, let's just let these things find correlations. And they'll solve problems or help us figure out problems that can be solved that we don't even know.
Unstructured learning is kind of like Montessori school on steroids.
You got it.
Okay,
you got it. Yep, good one. I was trying to think
Everybody out there know who Montessori school is, right? It's not an Italian dinner. It's okay.
No
my
chicken,
jokes are great.
Chicken Montessori. Yeah.
Tweet at me if you like my jokes.
So think about it. But IBM. So in 2014, I think it was, they actually released. Or they actually launched the Watson Computing Group as core to their future, as core to everything they do. But Watson started off pretty humbly back in 1997. Do you remember a computer that was called Deep Blue?
Yes, I do.
You remember Gary Kasparov, the world chess champion?
Correct. Deep Blue and Kasparov played a hockey. Forgive me.
That would
they
be
played chess. And
they did.
The second time around, the computer actually won.
It did, and it won quite handily, and it could do all of that in advance. Well, fast forward to, let's say, 2011, right, 14 years later, and there was a game show, I think there still is, called Jeopardy! I don't watch a lot of game shows, So
Alex
Jeopardy had the winningest guy that ever played Jeopardy was Ken Jennings, okay, and he won and won and won, and I don't even know if he lost. He might have just said, that's enough, I'm done. And so Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter, I guess he was the second best ever. They came on a show with IBM's Watson. Now it's this new platform. It analyzed tons of data sets from Wikipedia and world over, and it was able to form stuff in the form of a question. It was also putting its own numbers into, its Final Jeopardy bids and stuff like that. So that platform went, and the first time it did it with Rutter and Jennings, it failed miserably, right? It got all kinds of context wrong. It wasn't able to buzz in quite confidently quickly, or it did buzz in a lot, but it wasn't confident on the answer and lost a lot of money.
Okay.
And so it seemed like, all right, humans are still so smart, we're going to do it. And I think less than a year later, they had a rematch. So the IBM team tuned the algorithms and increased its speed in terms of its data set access. And Watson came out, and it trumped and trounced over the competition. It really, there was no chance. I mean, 89% of the questions it responded first. It got a vast majority of them right. And at the end, Ken Jennings said, I've been outsourced by a computer, and I think the future is pretty bright. I mean, he was a good sport about it.
One of the facts I thought I knew from my medical history is that we only use about 6% of our brain cells. I mean, the rest of it is kind of, like dust in the wind, just kind of blowing around up there. So it sounds as if the artificial intelligence or the metal brains have figured out how to utilize more of their capacity than we have.
Yeah, and if you think about, Moore's law, where, it says that every 2 years, the computing power will double and the price will come in half, or every, 5, whatever it was. It's been interpreted in multiple different ways. Well, think about that processing and compute power. We're at a point in history where even the PlayStation 4, right? It has 1,000 times more power than a $50 million mainframe from the late 90s, early 2000s. Okay. So that's how much more computational power we're getting. These graphics cards in our computers are now more powerful than some of the chips that run the computers. They're actually powering autonomous driving vehicles and NVIDIA graphics cards. So, and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's pretty amazing that we're getting more compute power, less space, less energy, and it's just really ballooning. So, the way Watson does this, it takes different questions, or it took different questions, and it had different keywords and sentence fragments, and then it kind of put them together. And it wasn't an algorithm that people wrote, but it was this ability to go through and look at all of the predefined, algorithms that, or the language associations that it had, and see if there's a hit or match. So it can make up garbage sentences, a million times a second, but then it'll find the things that kind of map and make sense, and then it'll hone in on those. It can do that way faster than a human could.
Can I say it's almost like a funnel of intelligence? I mean, it reads or understands all of this, but then basically puts it in a little box for us for intelligence.
Right. And you talk about the human brain, the 6%. Imagine if you could go and buy a module that said, it's going to unlock another 6% of your brain. Wouldn't that be a great upgrade?
Oh, heck yeah. That'd be a serious upgrade. I could even go on Jeopardy then.
Right. You could. You would be awesome. I mean, think about that. But now we've got this cognitive computing platform. You can keep throwing resources at it, and it'll get smarter and faster, and more data sets will make it more knowledgeable. It's just quite a cool path that we can see that doing.
Awesome. Well, again, I want to learn as much as I can. That's why we're trying to get smarter together here. So I did hear some incredible things about Watson that, it's kind of not scared me, but just it was like amazing to hear that Watson had read like 25,000 medical papers, on cancer, and was able to absorb all that and help folks figure things out, physicians figure things out even better. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think after our break, we'll go a little bit more into the uses of Watson, and medicine is definitely going to be one of the key focuses for the Watson group and other artificial intelligence and learning groups like Watson.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, guys, and we'll be back after a few commercials run and we pay the bills. WINT Radio here, 1330 AM and 101.5 FM. You're listening to Tech Talk 2020. Talk to you soon.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank a veteran.
On Tuesday, November 8th, your voice, your vote determines who wins. For an election this historic, turn to WINT's Election Central for the national, regional, and local results you care about. Join Ray Samich and me, Steve Newman, plus the News Herald's David Glazier for analysis and commentary on how the outcome affects you and your family. Election night, Election Central, 7 p.m. on Integrity Radio, WINT, 101.5 FM, 1330 AM, and WINTradio.com. What doesn't Great Scott Tavern in Euclid offer? They have it all, from happy hour to Thursday barbecue ribs to Sunday brunch to 5 big screens to watch your favorite sports team. The ambiance is stunning and the food superb. Visit GreatScottTavern.com for their full menu.
Don't you just love the fall in Northeast Ohio? Sunshine skies, gorgeous leaves, cool nights, and then, bam! Winter snowstorms. Be smart. You don't need to clear snow anymore, and don't risk being stuck in your house or inaccessible to visitors or safety vehicles. Call George Ward about their affordable snowplow packages. George and his crew are reliable and honest. With Ward's, you stop working and stop worrying. Call 440-942-1912. No work, no worries. Ward's.
Catch all the action and excitement of high school football on Integrity Radio, WINT, FM 101.5, AM 1330, and at WINTradio.com. Tune in this Friday night as the Cardinals of Mentor take on the Pioneers of Elyria. Pre-game starts 6:46, kickoff at 7. High school football brought to you by Pat O'Brien Chevrolet, Notre Dame College, and Lost Nation Sports Park.
Welcome back to Tech Talk 2020. Parker, I'm here with my co-host Mike Carswell. We're talking about cognitive computing platforms, and we're talking about IBM's Watson specifically. Now, why on earth, Mike, would we need computers to start thinking for us? I mean, why do we care? What's all this stuff about?
Well, I think computers will help us with our administrivia. That's one thing. You guys out there know that word, administrivia. And then also, they can. Oh, I'm just teasing around with you. Yeah, I think computers basically can, if they can help us remember more, if they can help us retain more, so we can make our lives better. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, totally agree. And so, some people call the first machine age what happened in the mid 19th century, around 1863. Where the invention of the steam engine, more specifically the Watts steam engine, which was 3% efficient compared to 1% before, and that steam engine allowed us to amplify human muscle power way beyond what we could do with animals or anything. And what that did was lead us to modern cities, railroads, factories, basically like life as we know it today. Now, people are saying as well that we are now in what's known as the second industrial revolution, which is now with compute technology, artificial intelligence, and unstructured machine learning, we're now able to amplify human cognitive power unlike we've ever been able to do before. And I think the benefits to that are, imagine problems that have dogged humans for a long time, right? Lifespan, cancer, for a significant amount of time. Diseases that we did eradicate, but it took a lot of research, one brilliant stroke of luck from a brilliant person or two to resolve that. Think about getting thousands and millions of human-like thought processes on a single problem. The speed at which we're going to solve these problems is going to be unprecedented. Think about Mark Zuckerberg and his wife.
Mark Zuckerberg, for you folks out there, is the author, owner / of Facebook.
Yep. He is one of the richest people on the planet, and he has focused with his wife to really, just like some of the other richest people, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, they focused on philanthropy as their purpose. And so what he said is, he's donated $100 million to New York public school systems. A few weeks ago, he just said, we're going to give $3 billion with a B to the lofty and worthy goal of solving and curing all disease, all human disease. So not just cancer, not just, certain things that we can't cure yet, like HIV, any of the other viruses that occur that we just can manage but we can't cure. He wants to cure all of it, and key to that is he's not going to hire 10,000 researchers and have them do, clinical trials for 80 years or 100 years to solve one or two problems. He's going to use cognitive computing, large data sets, and, long tail windows. He'll go 30 to 50 years, but the plan is to use the computers to accelerate our process of solving these problems.
Right. Using a computer is something to enhance our lives. I know many of us have looked at computers over the years as a hindrance or something kept me from doing what I used to do. But honestly, once you do decide to dive into technology, you tend to get things done quicker.
Yeah, and when we talk about large data sets or large amounts of information, we know that in the past 2 years we've created more information and content using the internet and all the tools available to all of us around the world. We've created more content in the past 2 years than humans have created up until the entire history of the planet up until 2 years ago. So take the last 2 years, it's more content than we've ever created before. So we know there's a ton of content. How much do you read? You're a well-read person.
I try to read, I don't know, I'm trying to set some goals, at least 2 to 3 books. I'm reading 2 right now, 2 to 3 books a year. So, it takes me time to walk through it. But, of course, there's other things I read on a daily basis. You know what that's are.
Yep.
But from just a getting through a book standpoint, right now I'm reading 2 books at the same time, one by a guy by the name of Michael Card and another one by a friend of mine named Dave Duryea.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Michael Card, similar to your name. That's like me reading a book about, Sanjay Park, So I'm glad you mentioned the other author that has no similarity to your name. But,
Yes.
yeah, you might let's say you spend an hour or 2 a day reading and learning, and maybe 4 hours, right?
Sure.
4 hours a day.
If I get in, yes, I'm in.
And if you do it 7 days a week, that's 28 hours. That's quite a healthy amount of new
That's
knowledge.
getting smart. There's a lot of people who read more than that, and I admire them.
You got it. Now imagine if you're a physician in today's world and you want to keep up on just all of the new journal articles that come out, just scientific journal articles, not news, anything else, just the scientific journal articles that are relevant to your field.
Right.
What is the average amount of hours you'd need to read them all?
Well, I really got to tell you this. I used to be in the medical industry, so JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medical Association, whatever it's called out, I can't specifically think of the name of JAMA,
Yep.
but that was a fat magazine. That was one fat book. So I can imagine as a physician all the things you'd have to bog your mind with to stay current,
Right.
stay on top of things. But again, that's what people are paying for as a physician that's going to be on top of things that can treat them properly.
Unfortunately, for a physician to stay completely on top of things just in their own field, right, they would have to spend, just for the new articles, and this isn't like digesting and retaining that, it's just reading it, they'd have to spend 160 hours a week. There's only 168 hours a week.
I was going to say how many hours in a week.
So that's 8 hours of sleep all week, and
Nice.
160 to read, no time for patients.
That's an estimate for them to be able to keep on top of things, is what you're saying.
That's just to digest all the new information that comes out, to read it. Now, think about that. So that's where the computers come in. So IBM itself doesn't even view Watson as replacing doctors. We think that's dangerous, right? Especially
sure.
at this nascent stage. But that will take all the articles. It will bring up contextually relevant information for that doctor. It will help them interpret results and say, look, here's what this data points to. And, of course, the doctor probably knows all that stuff, but maybe he forgot about some rare disease that could interplay based on the patient's history, their genealogy, plus all of their current and progressing lab results. That can be useful to be an assistant to the doctor, so we make sure they don't miss any diagnoses, that they consider everything. And they're also getting basically like their own assistant that's doing all of that research for them.
I just scribbled down something here on a page. It says, anything that will enhance a process. So process enhancement through technology is really a good place to go. So if there's something that takes place that can help expedite your activity or whatever you're trying to do, if you can do it faster, if you add technology to it, that's what we're seeking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, the promise of these large data sets and computers that are able to digest them and parse them out for us little human brains to understand is monumental. We've never had that before. Think about even 50 years ago. You want to do some research. You've got to go to the library. You've got to hope that book's there. And by the way, that book or that article was written probably 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And you're building upon that. I'm getting information that was released a minute ago from somewhere around the world doing that same research because of the way we've democratized content. And that forever has changed the course.
Are you
of
saying
history.
encyclopedia and typewriter salesmen are guys that are in trouble these days, huh?
If there is a typewriter or encyclopedia salesman out there listening, we would love to have you on our show. We will buy you dinner, and we will want to know your secret.
Oh, man.
So-
I remember encyclopedia. We used to have 2 sets of encyclopedias
Funk
in our
and
home.
Wagnalls.
That's right, man. We
Yeah.
were hot stuff.
Yeah,
We had
that's
2
right.
of them.
I remember that. It was awesome. Very expensive. I used to do my reports on that sometimes the night before because I didn't want to go to the library. It's great. There's like, a chapter on this, canary finch from the
Old
Galapagos
data.
Islands.
Old data, my man.
Old data.
It's old
So-
data.
So IBM's Watson, so it ingests 10,000 scientific articles per month
Wow.
in its health database.
So how many can we expect the average doctor to read?
out of those, I knew doctors. I worked in hospital administration and residency. They are well read, but honestly, you have to spend time reading, you have to spend time interacting with your peers, you have to spend time doing your continuing medical education,
Right.
you got to spend time with patients and protocol and administrivia. It is very tough to keep up on that. So it'd be great to have that assistant. I think it's really important. Now, where else is Watson being used? Well, I picked out one of the cooler things because, one of my favorite topics. Can you name a couple of my favorite?
Automated driving.
Yes. All right. Go no further. Thank you. That's very good.
Mr. Tesla
I
sitting here,
didn't even
guys.
feed him that. Well, there's a car company.
Mr. Musk would love you.
Well, this is about somebody else. It's about a
yeah.
car company that has a car named Olli, Olli. It's a good thing to Google. And so Olli is like a little transport bus with no driver. It's automated.
Okay.
And you get in, and IBM's Watson asks you where you want to go. And so if I get on that bus every day and I say, hey, I want to go to McDonald's or Starbucks, it will then know that when I get back on, like, Sanjay, do you want to go to McDonald's again? Or, Sanjay, why are you spending $4 on Starbucks every day? So it's going to learn and do all of that. So I can get on this vehicle, I'll tell it where I want to go, or it'll remember me and say, hey, do you want to go there? It'll take me there. I'll go get my Starbucks. I'll get back on, and I'll just, it's like a bus, but it's fully automated.
It's driverless.
Driverless, and parts of it are 3D printed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at a picture of Olli, the driverless bus here. And again,
That is one fine bus.
it looks like a toaster. What are you talking about, man?
That is one fine toaster on
I'm
wheels.
in my toaster with wheels. So I can see the use of that on like maybe a college campus or something like that. But I don't know about practical use for you and I. But let's say, for instance, you're in an amusement park or someplace like that. Then I could see the Olli
Yeah.
Shuffle going on, man.
Airports,
You hear that? The Olli Shuttle?
campuses.
Olli Shuffle? All kind of
very-
works together. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
very
I'm
good.
just so corny. I know it. That's all right.
So the message here is that this is going to help condense the time frame on human discovery of cool solutions. It's also going to apply in a broad spectrum kind of way, so that we are now going to get this embedded everywhere. You would think health research makes sense, weather prediction,
Sure.
big data sets, but hey, it can be personalized to me so that when I get on things like the Olli or whatever I need, it remembers me, it learns about me, and tries to make my life easier. This is really the promise of cognitive computing.
So Olli and Watson, when we hear those things in the news, we should not tremble in our boots. We should not be afraid of what's rushing our way, which is more cognitive computing platforms and unstructured learning.
Yeah, and you
We
should
shouldn't
not
be
be
afraid.
dismissive of the future, because IBM's Watson was named after the original, one of the key CEOs of IBM. His name was Tom Watson. And
Not the golfer.
no, he said in 1958, he said, I think there's a world market for about 5 computers in total, because they were so big, so powerful, so expensive. He thought, it's only 5 companies in the world that could ever need this. So even he, of the Watson name, wasn't sure where this was going to go. I don't know, but I think it's going to be amazing to find out.
Yeah, he's actually missed the mark a little bit there. We still named a stinking machine after him, huh? I'm sorry, it's not a machine. It's a cognitive computing platform.
That's right. That's right.
the word of the day, folks, or the words of the day. Cognitive computing platform. Say that fast 5 times. And don't forget Olli. But we started out with Watson, and we're so glad we did. It was quite elementary, as my jokes are. All right, guys, I guess it's time to go. I'm getting that look. Start the music, man. So glad you tuned in here on Tech Talk 2020. We like to keep it fun, keep it light here on Tech Talk 2020. Sanjay Parker, Mike Carswell, 101.5 FM, 1330 AM, WINT Radio, WINT.com. Take care, guys.